Ladies and gentlemen, we're going on now to session 14. Session 14 is the session between you and I. So don't go looking for it on Learn 2023. It's not on there. This is the one that we use so that I know exactly which session I'm sending to you. So that I know that I've sent all sessions to everybody. And I'm a little concerned that there are people that are not even watching this video that I send you every day. So you can't be watching Learn 2023 because there's a whole lot more on there. This is the summary and you're not even watching the summary. So you really are not keeping up with this course. Right, I'm going on to Bloom's taxonomy. And Bloom's was a man, Benjamin Bloom, in the 1950s, who decided that asking a question to a child wasn't enough. You can't just ask a question. We have to ask a question that makes a child think. In the old days when you're Google and when I was at school, we were taught rote teaching, rote learning. We didn't know why, but we had to learn it off by heart. We learned poems, we learned maths, we learned everything off by heart. For example, we were taught 1 times 2 is 2, 2 times 2 is 4, 3 times 2 is 6, 4 times 2 is 8. We didn't know why, but we knew that that was what we had to learn. So we learned it off by heart, like parrots. We didn't understand that 4 times 2 is actually 4 groups of 2. And that's what it would look like. 1 group, 2 groups, 3 groups, 4 groups of 2 in each. So I have 4 groups of 2 and it will be 8. We didn't know that, we weren't taught that. We were just taught 4 times 2 is 8 and you remembered it. So if I'm standing in a class and I'm teaching a class and I tell them all about in 1969, the first man walked on the moon. I've got to ask a question to find out whether they understand. Where is the moon? What does it look like on the moon? Who sent him to the moon? What was his name? Not just in 1969 a man walked on the moon. That's not enough. We want them to think more. So Benjamin Bloom worked out a thing called a taxonomy. It's merely a diagram to show us that when we ask a question, we can ask questions in different states, in different layers. I can ask the first one, which is remembering. Now, if I ask something and I want them just to give me the answer like we learned rote learning, I would stop them and, for example, I would tell them the cow gives us milk. And if I asked a question here for them to remember, I'd say, who gives us milk? And they'd all say, the cow gives us milk. Did they have to think? No, they just remembered it. All right? And Benjamin Bloom thought this is not enough. We are just bringing out people who are just like machines. They just keep regurgitating what they've learned. We want them to think about it. And so he brought out this taxonomy, which makes us, teachers, have to ask questions that make learners think. And think in different layers. So the second one was, do they understand what we're teaching them? So in other words, this question that I asked, and I said, the cow gives us milk. I want them to explain, how do we get the milk? Now, there are a lot of children who don't use their brains and who don't think. So it's our job to ask questions that make them think. So this second one would be understanding. Understanding where that milk comes from. The third one would be applying the knowledge. Whatever they've heard, can they apply it to something? And that would say, what we would say, complete the sentence. The cow is milked how many times a day? Now we want them to apply that work to what we've taught them. And it's so important that we remember this, because you are going to be asking questions about every single lesson you teach. And they can't be questions that are right down here. We've got to make them move up into this taxonomy, into using their brains more. The third one was analyzing. Compare the milk of a goat to the milk of a cow. Now we're teaching them a little bit more, and that's when I spoke to you and I said to you, when you give a lesson, do not just give a lesson that's in a textbook. That is not enough. You've got to have a little bit of extra. You've got to tell them about goat's milk. You've got to tell them that goats are actually milked, and their milk is made into feta cheese. You've got to give them a little bit of extra if you want them to think more. We've got to think more as well. You can tell them about all kinds of other different milk that you find. Almond milk, all kinds of soya milk, low-fat milk. How do they get it into low-fat milk? How they keep it in full cream milk, etc., etc. Now, evaluating. Evaluating is taking this knowledge and evaluating where it fits in. Decide how they get the milk to the dairy. Can you tell me that? So instead of asking this first question, who gives us milk? The cow gives us milk. I'm now making them think a little bit further. How do we get that milk from the cow to the dairy? If it's taken in a truck, how long is that trip? Will the milk go sour? Etc., etc. All those kind of things we want them to think about. And the one right at the very top is where we want them to create or make something out of the information that we've given them. And there I would say to them, when the milk has been pasteurized, and we've spoken about all that, and it's put into a bottle or it's put into a carton and taken to the supermarket, I want you to create or to design your own container. What would yours look like? And that's for the child who sits in class just thinking about all kinds of imaginary things. And now he can get carried away. So all these different states are different questions that we can ask them. And those questions, you have a thing on the Learn 2023, which is given to you, and by the way, it's in the wrong order, so I'm going to send you one in the correct order. For every one of these, there are different verbs that you can use. How, why, decide, make, create. All those different verbs are there for you. So if you want to ask them a question about something on the top layer of the taxonomy, you'd look on that list and find the kind of verbs that you would use for this. If you want to ask them here about analyzing the thing that you've taught, you would go to there and look at analyzing and look at the verbs. It's given to you. It's so easy. I just want to quickly explain this here. What is the verb at the bottom? And this is the one remembering. What? Who? Explain is understanding. If I want them to know that whether they understand what I've told them, I would say to them, explain it for me. If I want to go to applying it, I would say, Compare the milk of the cow to the milk of the goat. Compare low-fat milk to full cream milk. And then to evaluate, I would say to them, choose which kind of milk you think is healthier. And they have to talk a little bit about it because they have to think about it. And then right at the top, I would say develop or create. Develop your own thing. Create your own. And that would be right at the top. Now, on this, there is an assignment for you to do. And the assignment looks like this. I don't want you to go and do the assignment on Tebogo. This story of Tebogo is merely given to you for you to read and for you to see the kind of questions that were asked. This is not your assignment. This is an example assignment to show you how it should be done. Your assignment is actually on Wade Verniekerk. And the story is written, and all you need to do is read the story, which you get off Learn 2023. There is the story. And once you've read the story, you go along and you use this document to make your own questions. This is the document. Do not go and type your own document. This is the document you use. And as you type, if there is not enough space, it will move down. Now, what do you have to make sentences or questions about? Here it says on the lower level. They want a lower level question. It will be down here. It will be either remembering or understanding. Then they want a middle level question. It will be here or here. These two, applying or analyzing. And you go to Tebogo's story and you see what questions, kind of questions they ask. And you go to your list of verbs and you see what verb you could use, and you make a question from that story of Wade Verniekerk. And the last one is make sentences with these two higher level questions, and there you use the verbs from your list or from this Tebogo story. And that is it. That's all. It's not a lot of work. It really isn't. And so I'm asking you to please look at this and answer this as quickly as you can. And I really would like this by Wednesday so that we can carry on into our lesson planning. There's one more on Bloom's taxonomy, which I'll give you later on. There's another assignment for you to do, but just worry about this. The next one is on worksheets. But this is the important one on this answer where you have to make up questions. When we get to the lesson plan, you have to write down in your lesson plan the kind of questions you want to ask the learners. You can't just say, I'll ask questions. No. You've got to say, I'll ask the following questions, and you write them down. And they can't be lower level questions. Some of them have got to move higher. So it's important. Questioning is one of the important parts. Otherwise, we're wasting our time, we're wasting the children's time. They could actually just stay at home and listen to it on whatever it is that they listen to. They don't have to come to school and participate and communicate and connect. I hope you've understood this. If there's anybody who doesn't, please contact me and let me know. Thank you.